This is so hard. Why am I telling this story? I can't tell this story. Oh man. As you've probably guessed from the title of the video, the content of today is not gonna be so positive because, as you can imagine, 13 years of living in this beautiful country of Taiwan has led me to experience some decisions or situations that I've gotten myself into that I certainly regret. And despite the old cliche of no regrets that's led to thousands of bad tattoos all around the world, I believe regrets are okay. It's okay to look back on bad decisions, admit you were wrong, learn from them, and move forwards and try not to make the same mistakes again. And if you're wondering why I want to be so personal and open myself up so much to you on this channel, well, I've made a decision recently that I really don't want to just be another YouTuber introducing foods, introducing Taiwanese culture, just like everybody else does on their channels. I really want to let you guys get to know me, get closer to me, understand me, and really see how my life in Taiwan affects me as a person, and we can then move forwards, go on a longer journey together, share the ups and downs of life, and then when tough times come, we've got the group mentality and the tools to deal with it. Anyway, motivational speech over and done with. Let's get into some regrets. So if you are new to the channel, you may not be aware that I have an ex-wife and a son that live in South Africa. And while I've made videos before talking about how the breakdown of that relationship with my ex-wife broke my heart for several reasons, what I want to say here today is how I massively regret agreeing for William to leave Taiwan when he was 4 years old to go and study in South Africa. I know I've made a video before talking about why I chose the South African education system for William, but I think at that time when the decision was made, I was mentally weak and I didn't have the self-confidence in myself as a dad to be able to stand up and fight to keep William in Taiwan. Why'd you feel so good?
Because I'm with Daddy.
Yeah. Now, an interesting cultural point here is that when a divorce happens in Taiwan and there's children involved, is that usually custody will be given to the father's side, whereas in the West, custody is given to the mother. But my Taiwanese friends were asking me, why did you give your son to your ex-wife? And I was like, I didn't give him, it was just natural. That's his mum. A baby needs its mum more than he needs his father. But when all these decisions were made, they were still living in Taiwan and I could still see William whenever I wanted to. And if I'd known that the plan was for him to go to South Africa, and then if I'd also known on top of that how much it would affect me and no doubt affect William, I would have fought a little bit harder to keep him in Taiwan. But then again, one of the best things, the most amazing things about me and his mum's relationship now is that we have never fought about anything to do with William. And I wouldn't want that hostile environment for William. Sometimes in life you just have to accept that you're caught between a rock and a hard place, and whichever decision you make, there's gonna be regret. If I decided to legally fight his mum here in Taiwan, things would have gotten so ugly and there would have been so much animosity and hatred within the family, whereas now there's still a lot of love. So it is what it is, and I just live with the regret. The second regret I'm going to talk about isn't as deep as the first one, but coming later in the video, I am going to share the most personal story I've ever shared. So make sure you keep watching to the end of the video to learn about an absolutely massive relationship regret that I have. But first, let me tell you about my money spending regrets. I came to Taiwan in 2008 with my girlfriend at the time, who later became William's mum, and we lived in a very small, quaint countryside town. Our rent was paid by our schools, we had no kids, no debt, very little outgoing expenditure, and 18 months after arriving, by the end of 2009, we'd managed to accumulate a savings account together of over 1 million Taiwan dollars. But as we'd been working hard in Taiwan for almost 2 years without a real vacation, we decided that we really needed a holiday. And coincidentally, the FIFA World Cup was being hosted in 2010 in my ex-wife's home country of South Africa.
'Cause this is Africa.
So we decided, screw it, let's take 6 weeks off work, fly to England, spend 2 weeks with my family, then fly to South Africa, spend 4 weeks watching the World Cup and living it up for a while. And boy, did we live it up. We watched 12 football matches, we stayed in some glorious hotels, flew all over the country, ate the most amazing, delicious South African food. Meanwhile, the bank account was dropping like a stone. No income plus 6 weeks of excessive spending all around the world will quite easily run you through the best part of $1 million Taiwanese dollars. And as such, when we came back to Taiwan, we didn't have nothing. Yeah, I think we had nothing. But not to worry, we had stable, well-paying jobs waiting for us here in Taiwan. We worked and worked hard all year and again built our savings up to a number around about that million NT mark, and then a wedding. And soon enough, that wedding had managed to burn through the best part of another million NT. But I have to say, without that wedding, there would be no William. Don't want to overshare, but on that trip, William was conceived, so can't put a price on that. That attitude is so different to the Taiwanese mentality. They save up truly for a rainy day, not for a holiday. I'd love to know what kind of person you are. Do you save up your money to blow it on a big experience such as a holiday, or do you just leave it in the bank for a rainy day that maybe never will come? I have to say that I do regret not being a little more frugal at the time and protecting myself financially. Very different attitudes between East and West here, so please let me know what you think of mine and my ex-wife's attitude to spending so much money on experiences. Wow, $2 million. Regret number 3. I wish that I'd started YouTube much earlier than 2017. If I had started a YouTube channel in 2008, I'm pretty sure I'd be sitting on 1 million subscribers and much more views than starting it in 2017 when I did. Okay, here goes. Welcome to life in Taiwan. What I really want to do is alternate maybe 3 months or 6 months between here and South Africa. But at the moment, I just don't make enough money from video views in order to be able to support that kind of life. Most of my income actually comes from brand deals and sponsored videos that require me to actually be here in Taiwan. And now, of course, there are so many new foreign faces on YouTube. There's a lot more competition, so it's much more difficult to grow your channel and maximize the revenue you can make from it. So if I'd have been able to do this back in 2012, then there would have been much less competition. I would have had much more growth earlier on, and I'd be able to make more money and spend more time in South Africa with William. Undoubtedly, a huge regret I have is not spending more time learning Chinese when I first arrived in the country. And I get many comments on every single video I publish saying something like 这个外国人住在台湾13年多，可是还不会讲中文. And there you can see the reason why I don't use Chinese on my channel. And this is totally down to 2 factors. First of all, hands up, my own laziness and not putting enough study in when I first arrived in Taiwan. And second of all, I struggle so hard with mastering the tones of Chinese. I just can't hear the difference and can't repeat the different tones, which leads to so many social embarrassing situations or times when I've lost face in a social situation or in a meeting at school when I've tried to put forward my opinion in Chinese and I get that all too familiar and devastating look from the people around me who look at you and say, huh? So I just give it the, oh, 没事, 没事, and I just retreat back into my shell and continue to listening to what everyone else is saying. I guess that most of the foreigners that you hear speaking really good Chinese didn't spend several years here first, picking up bad habits and not focusing on tones or the fundamental basics of the language. Any advice you've got for me on fixing my terrible Chinese, then I'm more than happy to read your comments down below. Okay, the final regret I'm going to share with you in this video is probably the most personal and most intimate story that I've ever shared on this channel. And as I said earlier in the video, I really want to work on building up a relationship and getting people who watch my videos to understand me and understand the real deeper feelings that are involved with being a foreigner living a life here in Taiwan. So here goes. Last year, I gave up the love of a woman that was... This is so hard. This is so hard. I can't tell this story. Oh man. Last year, I gave up the love of a woman here in Taiwan after several years of waiting for her to return my love, and basically, she couldn't return my love. I couldn't wait any longer than I'd already waited for her, and as such, the loneliness and the heartache was absolutely killing me. So I gave up hope that she would ever fully return my love, told her I was leaving and that I didn't want the relationship anymore. And you know what happened? As soon as I chose to leave, as soon as I made that big step and told myself I was gonna be okay, I was gonna find somebody else that could truly return my love, she came back and asked me to be with her, and I rejected it. Why am I telling this story? I tried to move on, tried to find another relationship, focused on other people, focused on YouTube, did everything I could to ignore the feelings that I was going through. And some of you may remember that last year I made a video talking about my 5 biggest heartbreaks in Taiwan. And at the end of that video, I mentioned that there may be a 6th heartbreak that I can talk about in future. Well, this is it. So what the is this too personal? Is this too much? 18 months, 2 years later, I'm starting to regret that decision. And I think when you really find somebody that you really want to give everything to, don't give up that dream, don't give up that goal, which is I think what I did. I thought my time was more important than waiting. My time was more important than being hurt every day. So I gave it up, and now it's a big regret. I've always said when getting into deeper conversations with friends that relationships and people are the most complicated, complex things that we have to deal with. People are weird. Relationships are weird. It's so difficult to balance 2 personalities together. When something as complicated as love is involved in a decision, things just get so out of control and difficult to predict that we can only just make the decision that we think is right at that time. And being here in Taiwan, in a different culture, interacting and having relationships with people from that culture just makes it doubly or triply more complicated than if it was somebody from back in England. I had made the decision to give up on it, and now I really regret it. How cliche is that? Probably will regret making this video, but I really want to make the channel a little more personal. So there you have it. There's my 5 regrets about life in Taiwan. I'd love to get your opinion on what I've said. Do you think it's too much? Do you think I've overshared? But I think that's enough for now. I think you've had enough for today. Don't forget, hit the like button if you want to help me out. If you want to go to the next level and really help me out, then you can subscribe or maybe consider joining the channel or Patreon. Thank you so much for watching to the very, very end. As for now, and as always, time to say goodbye. See you next time. My life in Taiwan. Peace. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention.